Donald Trump is really hoping this war in Iran, which is going very badly for him from day one, is going to serve as an effective distraction from the Epstein files. But that's not going to work. There are members of Congress who are working really hard to continue the investigation. There are members of the press and activists who are working hard to continue to keep the investigation of Jeffrey Epstein and his associates at the forefront of the news cycle. Trump will not be accomplishing his goals of denying justice. Now, I know we heard from Pam Bondi, was it yesterday, that she's not going to release any more files. She's just straight up, once again, being like, I'm not going to comply with the law. And she's tried that multiple times, and it has backfired multiple times, and she's acquiesced, right? The regime loves to bluster and say, we're not going to do this thing, or we will do this thing. And then they wait to see if anybody pushes back. This is how fascist authoritarians progress. They claim power they don't have. They refuse to comply with the law, or they try and take your rights, and they see if anybody does anything about it. And if we're all just going to be compliant and lay down, then they'll just continue to pocket rights and take away rights and continue to trample on the law until there's no law left at all. But the American people are not doing that. We have not been doing that. We've been insisting upon our rights, standing up and pushing back, and members of Congress have been pushing back against Pam Bondi and the corrupt Department of Justice, all like nonstop. And likewise, what we're seeing is that there are investigations that can be carried out independently of the Department of Justice, just like we're seeing in both Chicago and in Minnesota, law enforcement and law firms who are investigating crimes committed by DHS and Immigration and Customs Enforcement. We're seeing in New Mexico, the New Mexico Department of Justice is investigating Jeffrey Epstein's ranch there, Zorro Ranch, which we all knew basically nothing about, right? It really went under the radar after his death. It was very quickly sold to a newly formed LLC. The buyer was secret, and people didn't know a lot about it. And it's only because of the release of the Epstein files that we're learning more and more about the fact that probably a lot of crimes were committed there. And I don't really understand. No, that's not true. I do understand why it was not really fully investigated before, because there's been a massive cover up. The Epstein class has been covering up the crimes of Jeffrey Epstein and themselves for years and years and years, right? Of course, they didn't want Zoro Ranch investigated because all kinds of bad shit probably happened there. But now, thanks to public pressure, the release of the Epstein files and pressure from New Mexicans themselves, but also Representative Melanie Stansbury of New Mexico, we're now getting a full investigation into Zorro Ranch, or it will be a full investigation if we continue to insist that that's what must happen. According to The Guardian, the federal government never searched Zorro Ranch. Even after Jeffrey Epstein was arrested, even after he was imprisoned, even after his death, they never searched Zorro Ranch. I'm sure it was scrubbed of a lot of evidence. It was quickly sold. But today we learned that the New Mexico Department of Justice was launching an investigation into the 10,000-acre property. And likewise, New Mexico legislators have opened up a truth commission. I'll have a link in the video description. They have like a tip line on their website for the New Mexico DOJ where you can submit evidence, tips, information about Epstein and Zorro Ranch. And just a little bit ago, less than an hour ago, Representative Melanie Stansbury issued a statement about this investigation. I want to share it with you here now, and then I want to come back for just a few more thoughts at the end.
I am coming to you from New Mexico with a breaking update in the Epstein investigation, and that is today, New Mexico's Department of Justice has begun its on-site investigation of Zorro Ranch. This investigation is crucial as a part of our larger investigation into the crimes that happened by Jeffrey Epstein, Ghislaine Maxwell, and his associates here in New Mexico, as part of New Mexico's investigation through our state Department of Justice and our newly passed bipartisan Truth Commission. Now, one of the things that's important to know is that New Mexico's Zorro Ranch is a place where multiple crimes were reported both to federal authorities as well as state and local authorities. In fact, there are records dating back to the mid-1990s of abuse happening at the ranch, including a report to the FBI in 1996 by a survivor and multiple other reports courts over the years. And one of the significant and important pieces of this case is to understand why justice was never pursued at the state, local, or federal level. So this investigation is a crucial piece of trying to understand what happened at the ranch, to look for potential crimes that may have occurred on the ranch property, especially because after Jeffrey Epstein was arrested in 2019 and other properties were searched, Zoro Ranch was never properly searched, and because it is a crucial piece in getting to the bottom of truth and accountability here in our state, to hold those who are still able to be held accountable to the law, as well as seeking justice and healing for survivors here in our state. So we are so grateful for the work that the New Mexico Department of Justice is doing. We are so grateful for our state legislative leaders like State House Representative Andrea Romero and State House Representative Mariana Anaya, who are leading on our Truth Commission. And we are so grateful to all of the survivors and our community who has shown up, especially over the last several weeks, to show support for survivors. And I want to say from the bottom of my heart, thank you to everyone, all of the hundreds of New Mexicans who showed up yesterday to show their support for the survivors, to march and to stand in solidarity at Zoro Ranch yesterday. I had the opportunity to meet with survivors afterwards, and I want to share with you that what they shared with us is that they felt like New Mexico was home and had welcomed them. So thank you to all of our New Mexicans out there who are leading the way, who are leading with your hearts, and who are seeking truth, justice, and accountability, because that is what this case is all about.
A couple of really good points there by Congresswoman Stansbury. One, yesterday was International Women's Day, and there was a march at Zoro Ranch. That's what she's referring to. Hundreds of New Mexicans showed up on International Women's Day in support of Epstein survivors. And I'm so grateful for the work that Rep. Stansbury and so many other members of Congress are willing to do when it comes to doggedly pursuing justice. And the fact that she's constantly reminding everybody, bringing the focus back around to the fact that it's not just justice for Epstein survivors, for the crimes that were committed against them. It's how justice was denied over and over and over again for decades. Why was there never an investigation into Zorro Ranch? Why is it that there has been this mass cover-up? There's multiple crimes on so many different levels across multiple states that has just gone on and on and on across multiple different administrations, right? It's George Bush, it's Barack Obama, it's Joe Biden, it's Donald Trump, all of them, all of their administrations, all of their attorneys general, all of those different iterations of the FBI all had tips, all had investigations, and they sat on this. They did nothing. And so we have to make sure that we not only get justice for those crimes, but also for the decades and decades and decades of cover-up. And then we need all of the reforms to make sure that this doesn't happen again. We need to dismantle the Epstein class so that there is not this group of elites in the United States who think that they can get away with preying on kids, who think that they are above and outside the law, that we are just playthings and amusement to them. I'm so glad there is a bipartisan commission in New Mexico that is investigating what's happening. I'm so glad there are people on a state and local level who are finally starting to get with the program. And also, please understand, this is happening because of you and me and regular, ordinary Americans. There would not be an Epstein investigation. Think how many members of like the government all over the place, career politicians who've known, how, like all of the wealthy elites in this country, they all knew this shit was happening and they just let it be the status quo, right? Oh, it's just happening underground, right? The American people don't know. We're just going to turn a blind eye to it, right? So many people knew. And it's only because regular people found out and we insisted upon justice. It's only because of mass public pressure that there is any investigation and there's any movement toward justice. We have given folks like Melanie Stansbury the political backing, the political capital to be able to push for an investigation and for justice. It's us, the American people, that are driving this. And let that be a reminder to you that power comes from us, that when we collectively wield our power, we can bring down elite billionaire criminals, right? We are getting to a point, we are now opening up an investigation that will lead to justice that has been denied for decades against some of the most powerful and wealthy people in this country. That is the kind of power that the people have when we come together and we use our power as one. And it's not just one and done, right? We have to continue to keep the pressure on, building our power and flexing it all the way until we get convictions, all the way until we get political reforms, right? We have to continue to lend our power to members of Congress so that they can continue to push for justice and have these investigations, right? They need us behind them. All of their power comes from us. All of this progress that we've gotten so far after decades of it being denied, that's because of us. Please, please understand, we have the power. We have to flex it. And not just with the Epstein investigation, we have this kind of power everywhere. It's just a matter of coming together and flexing our muscles.